Now, what's your name?
Brittany Burnham.
And Brittany, where did you go to school?
University of North Texas.
And are you a junior, senior?
I'm a junior.
Tell me what you want to do in Washington, D.C.
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I hope to march like we did in Georgia. So march along with everybody that participates, as well as go speak to U.S. representatives and senators about the Voting Rights Act.
What's your name?
My name is Jocelyn.
Jocelyn, what you doing in this bus?
On my way to DC.
And what you going to do in D.C.?
We're going to march and we're going to talk to some Congress members, and it's going to be really nice.
What's your name, my friend?
My name is John Davis.
Now, John, first of all, what you going to D.C. to do?
Well, I'm going to participate in the Journey for Justice March, rally, protest, and day of advocacy. I believe that going to D.C. to meet with legislators and representatives to introduce legislation is my way, or our way, of serving as the conscience of the leaders, or to the leaders of our country.
What college are you attending right now?
I go to Stephen F. Austin State University.
And you are a?
Texas. Well, I'm a junior with senior credits.
Well, look. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I'm majoring in accounting. So.
Excellent. Well, look, I'm glad that young folks are out there marching and making the way. So thank you very much.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
What's your name?
I'm Kendra Bowens.
Now, Kendra, what are you doing in this bus?
I'm heading towards Richmond, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. to join the Journey for Justice.
Now, why did you decide to join the journey?
I don't think a lot of young people have too much conviction nowadays. We've gotten very comfortable with where we've gotten today, and it doesn't mean we still don't have a long ways to go. So I would like to help with continuing that.
And I think that is very important, and thank you guys for keeping that road open. Hey, what's your name?
My name is Chancey Liggins.
Now tell me, what are you doing on this bus?
I am going to be a part of the Justice for Journey.
Have you done this before?
Journey for Justice.
Journey for Justice.
Yeah.
Have you done this before?
No, this is my first time. I'm a freshman. I attend school at Stephen F. Austin.
So you're enjoying the experience so far?
Yeah.
So you're ready to march tomorrow?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much.
She's a first grade again by the cops.
Why do you think they stopped us? I'm asking.
I don't know. They were speeding. Speeding, but I saw a whole lot of cars going faster than we were. We've been targeted. It's a conspiracy.
All right, you made it.
Crippled. We need to go fishing.
Look at all these folks getting off the bus. Woo! Yeah. That's all right. I'll make sure that's. All right. Good. Thank you.
Smile and give the queen wave.
You hide your face. Why would you do that? Come on. There you go. Hey, man. Hey, there you go. Smile. There you go.
You guys really in space about
Yeah, no, she was gonna stay on the bus. I just wondered which bus.
Yeah, I'm in Texas.
Justice.
Did you see it? They may have moved into the back. We out here, yo. We out.
Well, my reaction is very clear, that this is part of voter suppression. This is a democracy, and if a democracy means anything, and we're right now a few steps away from Arlington National Cemetery, where people fought and died for democracy. What democracy is about is all people having the right to participate in the political process, not making it harder for people to vote, not suppressing the vote, not having long lines where people have to wait hours to cast their vote. And that has got to change.
The Voting Rights Act that we just finished celebrating the 50th anniversary is really sacred, that we must have that act fixed. The Supreme Court said at the time that they issued its opinion that we ought to update the formula.
The senator talked about people giving their lives in Arlington Cemetery. People give their lives not only in military conflict and not only in defense of this nation, but also in defense of the nation's liberties and the nation's civil rights. So marching 1,000 miles, one of our own, Middle Passage, a man by the name of Middle Passage who was a Vietnam veteran, a Navy veteran, marched 920 miles carrying the American flag. Not waving the American flag symbolically, but carrying the American flag in service. And in service of securing, protecting, shoring up the right to vote. That's what America's journey for justice is about. We're not here to march as exercise. We've come nearly 1,000 miles because we're marching to demonstrate, to educate, to ultimately legislate. And that means shoring up and fixing a badly broken Voting Rights Act.
We stand here today with the nation's capital behind us because our lives, our jobs, our votes, and our schools matter.
And so we need to be reminded that on the 25th of June, when the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act, they unleashed an open season on voting rights. And the Congress, let's put it in context, Strom Thurmond did a 24-hour filibuster. This Congress has done a 27-month filibuster, a 2-year filibuster, Larry, and refused to bring up Section 4 for renewal. And this regressive and extreme attack on voting rights has unleashed it all over the South.
And so as we enter the halls of Congress, it will require courage. Not the courage to face down those who would harm us physically. We've seen that on this march and others. But it requires a different kind of courage. The courage to face down cynicism, the courage to face down pessimism, the courage to face down civic negativity, the courage to face down those who would say, not now, later, not today, later, not 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. I say to you, my brothers and sisters, if Medgar Evers gave his life for this cause, if Julian Bond gave his life for this cause, if Middle Passage gave his life for this cause, if Rosa Parks gave his life for this cause, if these marchers gave of their lives for this cause, if you're here because of this cause, we want to stand up for the right to vote this very day.
That we visited yesterday was Congressman Al Green's office. His right hand, her name was Miss Jackie, and so her best friend is Martin Luther King III. They marched together, and they just remained friends over the years. And so she said one of the stories that he told her is that when he's walking down the street in Atlanta, then people will come up to him and they'll say, oh, I marched with your father. So Miss Jackie said there were small groups of marchers just like we had experienced over the past couple days. And so she said, go ahead and look around the room. You know this is the group from Houston. But in 30 years, you're going to run into thousands of people who said, oh, I was with you on this day.
Why would a seasoned woman decide to come on this trip where she pretty much had to rough it?
Ever since I can remember, I've been an adventurer. Someone invited me to go on a road trip, I'm going. Then when I find out the road trip has a cause, I'm doubly glad to be here.
Now, how did you find the trip?
My aunt called me and asked me, do you work? Are you still working? I said, yeah, I'm still working. She said, aw. I said, well, what is it? What is it? She said, well, we want to go to somebody wants us to go to D.C. to march. I'm in.
That's all it took? But let me ask you the real question. Did she tell you you were going to have to rough it?
I live to rough it.
Okay, so you didn't have
that's not a question.
Okay. Now, when you got there and you saw the people there, did you feel inspired at all when you saw the amount?
Of course, because I did I'm going to do a collage or coffee table book on all the signs that I saw. So I have signs. I took pictures of every sign I saw, and those people are talking about supporting huge groups of people who need support. who don't have it, who are losing rights because they don't know how to speak up for their own rights. They're speaking for the rights of everyone who walks this planet. If you have the right to vote and you don't use it, you need to be educated, you need to be informed, and you got to be defended.
You are on the Justice Summer, the Journey for Justice put on by the NAACP. Why did you decide to make this trip where we are actually roughing it?
Yes. Well, what happened, number one, when I saw them start back in August, I said to myself, wow, I would love to be a part of that. Well, you know, life happens. I followed them kind of on the internet and as they were going. Well, I got a call Saturday from Loretta Brock at 2 o'clock and saying, do you want to go on the trip for the last leg? We got a bus going. It's like, oh, okay. So at 2 o'clock, I decided I would be on Monday morning, leave at 6. Why it's so important? It's time to involve these young people.
Exactly.
Let them do it. Just
and we have a bright
pass
bunch.
It on.
Yeah.
We have an awesome bunch of young people
Right.
on this bus. For them to take off and just do this, I think is awesome.
Now, before we get into anything, I know you're not going to mind this, but I want you to tell this audience how old you are, and the next question is, how do you stay 20?
This is my year to be 72. And I stay that way through exercise, eating right, but most of all because I definitely have a God conscience.
How did you arrive at this, not party, but this voyage, the Journey for Justice?
My very good friend Loretta Brock called me on Friday and asked would I like to go to Washington, D.C. And she told me about what was going on with the Journey for Justice, and I agreed to come.
Now, did you find it to be what you expected, less than you expected, about what you expected, or more than what you expected?
More than what I expected.
And tell me why.
Because there were so many people who was part of it, and then I found out that they were covering so many issues that are so important for black people. Voters' rights, raising the minimum wage, war against poverty, everything that is of great concern to us was covered in this voyage.
Now, is it something that you will continue to do, or is it something that you have been doing?
I went with her to Selma, Alabama.
Oh, really? How was that?
Selma was magnificent. We were able to hear the president speak, even though we were not able to see him. But there were thousands and thousands of us in Selma, and it was just good to be part of a group that's going forward.
Right. Now, how did you feel about this trip? How did you feel about the crowds? How did you feel about the transracialness of the trip, the transgenderness of the trip? How did you feel about the trip?
I loved the crowd. There were so many people from so many backgrounds, so many ethnicities. I even was privileged to meet a man who was homeless. He heard about the march the day before he came and joined, and he joined us and stayed with us throughout the entire march. It was just great. The Jewish centers treated us with so much love and kindness. I really was inspired by their reach out to us.
I think that is part of the story that needs to be told as well, because a lot of times there have been some people who have intimated some sort of a chasm between the Jewish community and the black community, and it's great to see that kind of camaraderie that occurred. The Torah being marched in the streets, and a real multi-dimensional, multifaceted, faith-based initiative going on with this march, don't you think?
I think so too.